Menopause is not the end of balance, but the beginning of a renewal. When you nourish your body with mindful movement, restorative rest, and the whole foods, your metabolism finds harmony and your strength shines from within. Welcome to Living at Your Finest podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Babs. I'm a triple board certified family, obesity, and lifestyle medicine physician, and I am the founder of Living at Your Finest Wellness, a holistic direct primary care practice. Did you know that 80% of lifestyle-related chronic diseases within our communities are preventable, with poor diet being the primary culprit? Now, contrary to what we thought, that it was our unfortunate genes, the good news is that we can make changes together to improve our health and quality of life. So that's what this podcast is all about. The Living at Your Finest podcast is devoted to helping families to live at their finest well-being using a holistic approach with a healthy lifestyle to nourish and flourish as a whole, vibrant, and healthy champion. So join me and my guests as we share transformational and sustainable skill sets from our health and wellness journey to support you and your families in achieving optimal well-being. Ready to live at your finest? Well, let's get to it. Greetings, Living at Your Finest health champions. What's up? How are you all doing? Welcome back to Living at Your Finest podcast show. Thanks for showing up today. As always, I hope you and yours are doing well. Well, today I am so honored because I have a wonderful colleague as our guest speaker on the podcast today. We have so many things in common. We both have direct primary care practices with a passion for whole person care, especially among women. And so there's so much nugget. I want you all to just stay engaged, just hone in, because you're going to learn so much together. Please, this is one episode that you're going to have to share within your circle of influence so that we can all get healthier together. The title of our topic today is Menopause and Metabolism, How to Keep Your Body in Balance. And so we have a few objectives, why quick fixes fail in midlife. We're also going to talk about midlife health blockers and then simple proven steps to strive. So without further ado, let me introduce Dr. Lola Ashaye. She's a board certified family and lifestyle medicine physician and the founder of InTouch Primary Care in Sugar Land, Texas. She specializes in personalized whole person care, focusing on prevention, wellness, and menopause health. Her passion is helping patients uncover the root causes of their health concerns so that they can feel their best, live fully, and engage what matters most. So welcome, Dr. Lola Ashaye, to the Living at Your Finest podcast show.
Thank you, Dr. Babaola. Thanks for having me.
The honor is all mine. So let's take a deep dive. I see you on social media and I just see your heart for well-being and women's health and whole person care. I love stories. So can you share with us, where did that all begin? Where is that fire coming from? So a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I'm family medicine, right? So primary care doctor. And I think over time, I started to see a frustrating pattern. So I've been practicing, this is 18 years now. And I noticed that it seemed like we're just adding medications for chronic conditions, right? Patients were getting frustrated that, yeah, maybe they were managed, but the health wasn't improving, and they were wanting to reduce their dependence on medications. And, with traditional family medicine, I didn't feel like I had the tools to help them do that. And that's when I started to explore lifestyle medicine, where there is, focus on root cause, which is the foundation of health, your nutrition, physical activity, using lifestyle habits to truly help people feel better. So once that foundation was fixed, I started to notice people got better. People started to get off their medications. People felt like their health was getting better. And, that's where that comes from. So I get really, when I see somebody with pre-diabetes, I get excited. I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity. We can reverse this,
Yeah.
let's do it now. So it is just understanding that simple lifestyle changes can really make a huge huge difference in the lives of people. And we see that over and over again. And that's what gets me excited.
That's why I said we have a lot in common, because I get excited as well when there's that opportunity to educate patients that your genes don't have to dictate your journey, right? Your whole life. There's epigenetics, it's the environment, the lifestyle. And contrary to what we were taught in medical school, we used to think everything was genes, is your bad genes, forget it. But now we know that I think about 10 to 20% of it is actually genetics. The remaining is lifestyle and an environment. So I am really glad that you have this rapport with your patients and they can see the power of lifestyle changes. So the pillar of health is always the foundation of it all. So where did the women's health begin? Because I know that you do a lot in the community. Menopause is all over. I think that's the buzzing word. Even men, my husband was like, menopause, everyday menopause. So it's the buzzword now. Can you share a little bit more about why that matters in the season that we're in, and what does that look like? So we want to take a deep dive into that.
Yeah, so I think, as many doctors may have experienced early in my career, I had very little knowledge about menopause. And I think the more people understand that just because you're seeing a doctor, even a gynecologist, like that doesn't necessarily mean that they're menopause trained and they know how to properly take care of people in that transition. And so I didn't understand menopause and what it meant. And I used to see patients, I saw patients like that were in the transition, and I didn't really know what was going on either. They would come to me and will, treat their prediabetes or high cholesterol, and it didn't occur to me that it was related at all to this transition they were having, or they have the weight around the waist, they have suddenly start experiencing anxiety or depression, or so many symptoms. They can't sleep well anymore. Of course, the hot flashes and night sweats, that was obvious, but it was just like, oh yeah, that's part of the growing older, you'll be fine. But over time, the more in the DPC model, you have more time to really explore what's happening with people, and you're not just putting a Band-Aid over their, symptoms and conditions. I started to notice patterns with my patient. I was like, wow, I wonder, and then you start to hear more about it from other sources, other doctors, start to read more about it. And that's when I realized, oh my goodness, this is a great opportunity, not just for us to be proactive about people's health, not just when they're in the transition, but way before the transition. We can really help women be better prepared so that by the time because we're all going to go through it if we're here, right? So can help people be much better prepared so that when they go through this transition, they can thrive. It doesn't have to be a horrible experience. And while some people are going to, I tell people it's like pregnancy, right? Where some people, they could deliver their own baby. Their pregnancy is so smooth, they have no problems at all. They have fun, they eat whatever they want, they're fine. But then there are other people that they have to see their gynecologist every single week, so everybody, the experience might vary, but it's important that people know that there is help, that there are ways to properly take care of the transition so that they can thrive through it.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you said a lot to unpack right now. And I think the key thing is just to be prepared in a proactive way, know that there's solutions. And the fact that we were not taught any of this in medical school, just like you, I had no clue what was going on. The most I knew was hot flashes, and that's it. And then I would recommend black cohosh, or I'll say fan or ceiling fan over your head, so I feel like during that time we didn't know better. And I feel like I did a lot of injustice for my patients. I would listen to them but just really didn't know what else to do. So everything was this in different compartments. We didn't tie it all together like you just alluded to. So putting it together and understanding that you don't have to send a woman to an endocrinologist, to a GI, to all the different specialists. Meanwhile, whole person care under the the direct primary care model, you have time to actually understand what's going on with a patient and be able to provide just the support in addition to the different treatment modalities. So I love that you said all of that. So for our listeners, there's hope for sure, but you need to get that with a qualified physician that is trained, has the additional training, because
Yeah.
maybe we weren't taught in school. So the doctors that have the additional training because they're passionate about women's health, definitely like InTouch Primary Care, that's a physician that is qualified, has done it for many years. You want to look for doctors such as her. So Dr. Ashaye, let's talk about some of the, quick fixes that are out there in midlife. I personally, I struggled with it. I'm turning 50 in December, and not knowing, that was what began my own passion, even though I'm really whole person care, but I really did not know that all these little things could be tied to that perimenopause and midlife transition. So it was in my own journey that I actually learned. But I guess for you, I would like for you to share a little bit more about those quick fixes that are out there, because there's a lot of misconception out there. So how do you balance these metabolism, weight gain, all the things? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think understanding, a little bit of the science, we have to understand the details, but just to try to summarize the science, understanding that it's not just about, it's what the hormones do. So we are talking about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And when there's a decline in this hormone, it affects a lot, not just the hot flashes and night sweats, which are a sign of vessel disease anyway, but it also affects how we store fat, for instance. It affects how insulin works. It affects how much muscle we maintain, how well we sleep. So when we understand the role of all these hormones in our bodies, and then when those hormones decline, as what happens in menopause, that's when a lot of chronic conditions start to show up. So we can't prevent the hormones from declining, but there are other things we can do to support what we already have in our bodies, so that when that decline happens, doesn't have as much impact as it would have if we didn't do these other things. So for instance, resistance training, right? Very important. And it's important to actually start that before in the perimenopausal, as soon as possible, really, to strengthen our muscles, strengthen our bones, and reduce the impact that decline in hormones will have, on our bodies. Also, the protein, the fiber, the healthy fats, those are really important in our meals, because that's going to help, again, reduce the impact when the hormones decline, to help keep us healthy. Sleep becomes really important, and there are many different ways. There are supplements that can be helpful during sleep, like magnesium glycinate, for instance, can be helpful to help people relax and sleep better. People can use those types of things initially to help, even things like weighted blankets. I recommend that to some people. Not everybody, if you're hot, that might not work, but if you can keep your house really cool, you can use a weighted blanket. That could be helpful. So finding ways to really help with keeping your hormones in balance in other ways, so that when that decline happens, you are still able to thrive. And then keeping track of things. So this is really not the time not to go to your doctor. Like you may have been able to get away with it in your 20s, but when, during that transition, this is when you really want to keep track of your blood pressure, keep track of your lab work, and make sure that you're not developing things that could happen because of the decline in hormones, and keeping track with all your preventative care. All those things are really important in this transition. And then, of course, there's hormone replacement therapy, and some people will really benefit from that if a lot of the other measures are not necessarily working, or not enough. So they might also need to do hormone replacement therapy, and at that point we have that conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned that this is not the time when you're going through that transition to stay away from the doctor, because I've seen several patients tell me, oh, I never go to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor in years. So in your 20s, yes, but when you start hitting that 30s, mid 30s, because perimenopause journey is anywhere from 45 to 55. And we're finding that even like in the 30s. I've had a patient actually was going through that transition as early as that, because that whole journey is anywhere from 7 to 10 years. So you
Right.
definitely want to stay on top of it. A 54-year-old lady that joined my practice, she said something that was so unique. She said, if I was going to give any advice to my younger self, I'll be in my 30s, get baseline labs, know what's going on with your glucose, know what's happening with your lipids, because as you mentioned, when the estrogen is declining, there's a lot of things that shift, that change. The protection that you get with estrogen, you don't have that as it begins to decline. So I think that you've emphasized it so beautifully about being on top of not just being with your doctor and building that care, but also applying these lifestyle pillars to help support and provide, like a buffer, right? When you're already having that decline in estrogen. So thank you so much for sharing that so well. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode. My goal on this podcast is to empower, educate, and encourage you to take actionable steps to triumph at living at your finest, body, mind, and spirit. Of note, the information provided here is for educational purposes only and does not substitute as medical advice. Please discuss your healthcare needs with your licensed medical professional. If you are in need of a compassionate and comprehensive holistic physician or know someone who is, please reach out through my website, liftwellness.com, for a meet and greet. It will be my honor to talk to you. Are we connected on social media yet? I share more in-depth content on best practices to ensure that you live at your finest daily. So please join me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Living at Your Finest Wellness, where we can learn together and stay connected. Lastly, please subscribe to iTunes if you have not done so already, and share the podcast within your circle of influence. An extra step? Leave a review and let me know what topics or discussions you would like to hear more of. Thanks in advance. It is always a thing of joy to hear from you. Now, let's get back to today's episode. Now, I'm curious about the quick fixes that you have seen in your practice that people come up with that is a no-go area. You certainly told us what we should do and how we need the strength training, the protein. But what are some quick fixes that you will tell our listeners right now? You want to avoid doing that. It's not going to help. It's not going to serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, one, I'll tell a story. So I had a patient who had anemia. So she was going through the change and she was having irregular periods, very, very heavy. And by the time she came to me, her hemoglobin was 6. And then she found out she had fibroids as well. Well, so she traditionally, like in the past, it's like, eat more red meat, eat more meat so you can get your hemoglobin up. That's what even doctors would have told her. Well, it gets even more complicated because she didn't want a blood transfusion. She didn't want an iron infusion. She just was like, I don't want any of that stuff. I just want to do it naturally. I was like, okay, lady, if we're going to do this now, you're going to have to listen to every single thing we talk about, and you're going to have to do it. And she was willing. Well, turns out that, we put her on a plant-based diet, so no meat. And because when you eat meat, it increases the saturated fat in your body, and that causes inflammation and makes things more complicated, increases the risk of all the other things that we have mentioned. And then we increased her plant-based sources of iron. We put her on a high-quality iron supplement, and her hemoglobin is now 11, normal. And her periods are much better controlled now with removing the meat in her diet and just, being more physically active and other lifestyle changes that we talked about. But I think that's one of the things that I see, right, when people self-treat. They get information that is not necessarily accurate from the internet or all these different sources. And so it's trial and error. They're not necessarily checking to see if it's working. And that's how people, so a no-no is, when you are anemic, their customized plans we can come out. Everybody's a little different, but don't assume that increasing your protein by eating meat is the right way to do things.
Right, have to be personalized, right, and customized. Right. So whatever you hear online, like all the influencers, I've had patients tell me all sorts of things that they heard this works, that works. At least I'm glad they even bring it to my attention. Some might not even say a word, but knowing that you don't know that person's unique situation, right? You don't know their history, you don't know their labs, their biomarkers. So that definitely makes a whole lot of sense that you want to build that continuity relationship with your doctor who understands your history and be able to provide the best choice in terms of supplement and food as well, right? So
Yeah,
that's
and evidence-based choices, because I think people share their personal experience. And like you said, it could work. It may work for them very well, but that's because of their unique makeup. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So
right.
you can't just use somebody else's solution without making sure that, it works for you. You need a professional to help you determine that.
Right. And then part of what I would like for you to share is we know that during menopause, there's a lot of metabolism shifts. Can you share a little bit about how? I know you gave us some examples like protein, strength training. What else other than those items could you say that they can use to balance their hormones? Because again, a few people might say, yes, I want hormones. They follow the evidence. We have FDA approved bioidenticals. But what if they say, well, I don't want to have that? What would be additional things that you will share that will help balance their levels? Because you did say health blockers. Do you want to? So I don't know if you can share a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, it depends on the goal. So usually my approach is I look at the patient's symptoms and what and their goals. So some people, if the symptoms are really bothersome, then we focus on whatever symptom is bothersome and look for ways that we can reduce those symptoms. So if, for instance, they're having trouble with hot flashes and they're saying, okay, I don't want to, I don't, the hormone replacement therapy is, by the way, the most evidence-based solution for that. But if for whatever reason they can't, they don't want to do that, or then we say, okay, so what are other ways that we can reduce your hot flash, your symptoms? Do we go to supplements and see are there supplements that can naturally increase your estrogen levels so that you can, or foods, like soy, that can increase your estrogen levels naturally so that you're able to feel a little bit better with that particular symptom. So it's really symptom based and person based. The other thing is for people that may have a family history of osteoporosis, for instance, or even dementia, there's some evidence about how hormones can be, estrogen particularly, can be protective. So maybe those people, they don't have any symptoms now, but they're interested in, preventative care. Then we start talking about that, like, okay, how do we make sure that you get to your goals? And what I'll say, it is an evolving science. It's not there's sometimes where, I'm like, well, what I know is this. Things may change over time in terms of, supplements that we find out that might help. But right now, what we know evidence-based wise is this is the treatment we have right now. And so we just give options and we can always weigh them over time.
Yeah. And then with the close monitoring of the patient, right, to
Yeah.
determine, I had a patient who I had the conversation, just like you said, about the different options, lifestyle being the foundation of everything. And so she was doing that, doing well, but all of a sudden, instead of having more brain fog, because she was hesitant about hormones and had a family history of Alzheimer's, but she was very hesitant. And we talked about lifestyle, supplements. And then just recently, she said, you know what, doc, I'm ready. I want to have a conversation with you again. Which ones would be ideal? How should I proceed? So I like what you said, Dr. Ashaye, that having that conversation, symptoms driven, what is your quality of life? Which one, which one is bothering you the most? And let's see how to keep that in balance and under control. So
Yeah.
yes.
And also even uncovering why people are hesitant about hormones. So sometimes, I have them read some of the more modern hormone replacement therapy evidence that we have, and just helping people understand, because I think there's a lot of misconception and people don't really understand. And because like insulin's a hormone, right? So it's just how we have conceptualized certain things in our minds that make people, oh, I don't want hormones. Well, you already have hormones, and so
Already have hormones. I
we,
mean, I know
right,
it's funny because with the estrogen, we naturally made it, right? It was just
right,
decided to pack shop and go, but we
right.
had it, right?
Exactly, and it's such a small amount, and there are different modalities that make it safe, have made it so much safer, for many people to be able to tolerate. And it really does save lives, like, with vaginal estrogen, for instance, can really prevent people from having urinary tract infections, which kill people, right? So it's a huge quality of life booster. It saves marriages, like
Yeah.
when people have comfort level with intimacy, it makes it easier for them to continue their relationship. So it's a quality of life issue. It's a, health issue that needs to be addressed.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you're doing the walk, doing the walk in your hometown, doing the whole of spreading the message that our women don't need to suffer in silence. It's a physiological transition that is going to happen, provided we live long enough. We're all going to experience it. We all have different ways to experience it, but there are treatment options. And to have that conversation with your doctor, I think that is the take home message today. Well, I would like to switch gears now, if that's all right with you, and just learn about who Dr. Ashaye is. We know that you're passionate about whole person care. We know that you have a direct primary care, you're a menopause specialist, but we want to kind of tap into who you are outside of all of that. So if you permit me, I think about 2 or 3 questions to throw at you, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So let's go ahead. So I have, the name of this podcast is Living at Your Finest, right? So what can you share with us is your go-to, fun thing to do that helps you live at your finest, makes you have that glow that you have on your face right now, that beautiful glow.
Fun thing. Well, vacation.
Like to vacation. Okay, that's
I
good.
love, I know my husband, I had to convert him. I was
Right.
like, we need vacation. It's not a want, it's a
It's a
need.
need. Yes. Yeah.
So we prioritize that in our, yearly, try to do one just together with him and then one with the family. And then if we can add some smaller ones in between, we try to do that too. But I think for me, it's just getting away. It actually, when I come back, I'm always much more energized, more focused, have better ideas. Just, it really, really is a great way for me to come back refreshed.
Very good. Yeah, vacation is a great thing. And I bet it balances hormones too, right?
It does, yeah.
Because it raises your cortisol level. Although
And
some people usually say when you go on vacation, you need a vacation from the vacation.
from the vacation. Oh yeah, I always schedule a few days afterwards to get back in and yeah.
That's true. So, but yeah, but that definitely it's a mood regulator. It helps to cortisol, depending on how you manage it. But
Yeah.
yes, I love that you shared that. Well, second question, what is one word that describes you?
I'll say uplifter. So I think that's something that I try. My goal is to help people become more ready for change because everybody's in a different place. And I love with the DPC model, I have the time to find out where they are and kind of help them get to where they need to be. And some people are quick, like there's a guy within a year, he was on board, his health is completely transformed. Have another lady, it's taken us 3 years to get her A1C from 11 to 6 because she just wasn't ready, no matter. So it's you meeting people where they are, but just uplifting them wherever they are, kind of holding their hand and encouraging them to keep going, just keep taking it one step in front of the other.
Very good, very good. I love that you said that. So meeting people where they are, providing that compassion, providing that safe space, the support that is needed. And that's so important because patients don't get that anymore. There's not enough time in the traditional healthcare system, 10, 15 minutes, and you rush in, rush out. And so I love that you have that direct primary care practice. So I would like to give you an opportunity to please give us your parting words while you share about your practice. If there are people in your area, let them know how can they find your direct primary care practice. If you're still taking patients, would love for you to just share a little bit about, what projects you're doing and last parting words.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll say, if you're listening, the first thing I'll say is just don't be overwhelmed. Just start with one thing that you can do to improve your health, and be intentional about it. So what I let people know is if you think about working out for an hour, for some people that's too much. Like, oh my goodness, like I can't see myself doing that. But if you're like, oh, okay, 5 minute, go for a 5 minute walk. Start there. Just start where you are. Do something, pick something, nutrition, sleep, physical activity, stress, something, and start doing it today, and then do it consistently, as 5 times a week, 7 times a week, but try to do it consistently, and you will be surprised how just that one little thing can make a difference. Our practice is InTouch Primary Care. We're based in Sugar Land, Texas, which is in the Houston area. The easiest way to reach out to us is by our website, intouchprimarycare.com. We have all our handles on there, and you can schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation with me there, because we can talk about your unique symptoms and find out if our practice is a good fit for you. So those will be my parting words.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashaye. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you about menopause and metabolism and how to balance all the hormones. So thank you so much for sharing space with me today to enlighten our community. I will certainly put your contact information in the show notes so that people in the Sugar Land area should come and see you. They will love, love, love to have you as their direct primary care doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Babalola. And yes, and if you're looking for a doctor as well, Dr. Babalola's clinic is pretty awesome. She's a phenomenal physician. Also, whole person care, as you've heard. We share a lot of things in
Share a
common.
lot in common. That's right. That's right.
It's really wonderful to share that with you. And thank you for having me. So
Yeah, it was nice to meet you at the meeting and give you a hug. We've been
Yes.
communicating online, but to get to see you in person was lovely. So thank you again. I appreciate the shout out. So yeah, so to our listeners, thank you for listening to us to the very end. Thanks for just engaging, and we're thanking you in advance for sharing this episode with others. All right. So you've heard a lot today, a lot of information, but we want you not only to get inspired, but to implement. You heard it, Dr. Ashaye said it. Don't go from 0 to 100. Pick one thing, even if it's just like you're gonna, strength train 5 minutes or 5 reps. That's what I usually tell my patients: 5 minutes or 5 reps, and then just get going. Know that there's hope. We are not broken. Menopause transition starts early for some people during that age range, but just really start getting educated and, connect. I was going to say hook up with your doctor, but connect with your doctor. That's how serious it is. Don't stay away from your doctor. Find one that listens to you, that will hear you out and provide you with all the resources that you need. So until next time, I want you to remember that you deserve to live at your finest, because you are worth it. All right, take care and God bless.